So we have another company, another tech company, announcing reducing of headcount. So this is from Zeb Evans. This is the founder and CEO of ClickUp. ClickUp is a cool project management and workflow tool that I've used in the past that helps teams organize processes, workflows, projects, all that kind of fun stuff. And it's in the industry where you're seeing AI hit the most, development, software, and that. And Zeb today posted on X saying that they reduced headcount by 22%. He says the business is the strongest it's ever been. So I think it's important to be direct about what I'm seeing and why. He says, first, I made the decision, he owns it, right? He did it because the way to operate the highest level of productivity is changing, which is true. It's changing with AI. AI is reshaping how individuals work. AI is reshaping how what skills companies are requiring of individuals going in there, and it's reshaping how businesses work as a whole, right? How their workforce looks, their org charts, how information and data and skills flow through the organization, because it's breaking down barriers that were rigid before or that were too expensive to dissolve. It's taking that away. Things that were, and I talk about this a lot, things that would be too costly to automate because the ROI wasn't there. The cost to automate versus the return for doing that task it didn't make sense economically, which is a classic business problem. And it's a classic warning that they teach you is, hey, before you automate something, make sure that actually needs to be automated because you don't want to spend a bunch of time, energy, and money automating something that you don't need to automate or automates the wrong thing. It's a business owner's famous last words of many times. So AI has compressed the amount of time it takes to automate things and has compressed the cost. So things that you wish were automated, but unfortunately it was just cheaper to have someone doing it, well, now we live in an era where you can actually do those things. So if your role was a person whose job only existed because the cost of automation was too high or the complexity was too high, you're on alert, okay? And you can take this in a couple ways as I read this tweet and give you some more of my insights on how you should approach this. But I think if you've been watching my videos, then you kind of know where I'm going with this. But he says, because productivity is changing and to win the future, ClickUp needs to change with it. To win the future, you need to change with the times. You need to be adaptable. Second, this wasn't about cutting costs. Most of the savings from this change will flow directly back into the people who stay. That's a really good thing for businesses, and this is actually the right approach. A lot of people think that these businesses are just cutting headcount to reduce costs. So there's some of that, yes, right? As a business, you always want to find ways to reduce unnecessary costs that aren't actually helping you grow, helping you serve your clients better, and so on and so forth. That's the nature of business. You want businesses to do that, okay? You don't want them to just be spending money and paying people just to spend money and pay people because they'll lose, right? The business will fall apart. Okay, but what you do want to see, and I've talked about this before, is that they reinvest that upside into people who are there, who are producing more or in excess of what was traditionally expected. This is actually a really good thing for you if you're a worker. It's a really good thing for the economy because it means that the money flow, maybe it's going into fewer hands, but the hands that it is going into, it's rewarding their competence, it's rewarding their experience, it's rewarding their capabilities, and they have more money. With that, right, I mean, that's we kind of want to live in a society where you're rewarded for your competence. That's a good thing because, right, it's not a good thing if you're doing really well, you're hitting amazing benchmarks for the companies, yet they can't afford to pay you more. Their structure's set up to where there's not excess. You know what that does? It causes people to look for new companies. It causes people to become disgruntled, to opt out, right? We live in a time where everything's so expensive. If you're working and you're doing well, you should be rewarded so that your pay is in excess of what it was before, and you can start affording the things that were out of reach. I think this is great. Now, how it's implemented is actually very important. You don't want all the business savings and everything go to the people at the top. They'll get those benefits by owning the shares and stuff like that and the business being more valuable. You also want to see the people that work there that help build the company, right? The employees, you want to see them be better off as well after these workforce reductions, okay? So he says second wasn't about cutting costs. It'll go back to the people who stay. He says, we'll be introducing $1 million salary bands if you create outsized impact using AI, right, in this new AI workflow system, you'll be paid outside of traditional bands. Most important, that's very key. It's hit on what I just said before. You should reward high performers with high performing benefits and bonuses. And if you don't like that, it's probably because you're not a high performer, or you've chosen not to be a high performer. And you need to make the choice to say, okay, Donnie over there is doing great and he's getting paid more than me and he's moved up. He's got promoted 3 times in the last year. Why am I not getting promoted? What am I not doing wrong? What skills has Donnie acquired, even though if we started at the same level, that I haven't acquired? And how can I acquire those skills for myself? You need to actually take some initiative and accountability of your situation. The past 10 years, you might have been able to get by on free riding stuff and working for companies and doing the bare minimum. Anymore, right? You're not going to be able to do that as much. And I just think, just as a general life philosophy and success philosophy, if you've fallen into that routine, or it really is a trap, a comfort trap, this should snap you out of it. And if it doesn't, right, you're going to be snapped out of it when you get that call to HR saying, "Hey, we're decommissioning your role. Here's your severance package," or whatnot. Okay, so you just have to understand this is what's happening. And it's not ideal for everyone, but for the people that recognize it, you can make lemonade out of these lemons. Okay, so keep going forward. Like he says, deepest gratitude for those affected. Yes, of course, right? Like, you run a company, like, you have to care about your employees. And while it sucks to say, hey, your job's no longer, it's no longer a job here anymore, you have to as a business, right? You can't do a disservice to your business, to your high performers and everyone else by keeping people on that aren't performing at the level that you need them to be. It's just, that's just the nature of business and reality, okay? Now, what he said is we're doing this from a position of strength, so they're not being weak. And I don't know ClickUp's financials or whatnot, so I hope that's true. And so he's saying everyone affected receives a package aimed at honoring their contributions and easing the transition. That's a benefit from this, and it's a benefit when companies are doing this from a strengthened position, right? If they're doing well, doing great, doing fantastic, and they have the money and resources now to help that transition of those people, I think, hey, that's a really good thing. And here's what he says. I only see 2 options. Wait for this to play out gradually in the market, or be honest about what I'm seeing and act proactively. Again, you're in the same boat, okay? You can wait for this to play out gradually in the market, or be honest about what you're seeing and learning, and you can act proactively. I am really encouraging you to act proactively. And one of the ways you can act proactively is you can check out the Arsenal. The link is in the description below. It is my monthly training where I teach you how to incorporate AI into your workflow, so you can go from using AI just a little bit to working with AI, to then working through AI and becoming a power user with AI, so that you aren't one of the people that are left behind. Or even if you are, you then have a skill set that you can go into the market that is extremely valuable. Because one of the things I think is happening, and I think is really, really true, and I'll get to it more as I go through this tweet, is that there is actually a surplus of people who don't know AI, and there's a scarcity of people who do know AI and are working through and with AI. So knowing that there's fewer people with experience, judgment, and skills plus AI out there, and all you have to do is add AI to how you're working, what your role is, or shift how you think about your skill set and your experiences, and view it through a lens of, okay, how can I start building the skill sets and experiences that are valuable in this age of AI? And when you do that, you become incredibly valuable to an organization, because your output can be 10 to 100 times what someone with your same level of skills and experiences is, that doesn't use AI. And so you really have to take that to heart and ask yourself the hard questions, and then do the work to make that happen. Okay. And so here he sees it playing out. He sees it as, he calls it the 100X organization. The primary change is that we're restructuring around what I call the 100X org. The goal is 100X output. The roles required to build at the highest level are fundamentally different than they were a year ago, which is true. This is what I've been talking about, okay? The roles are changing in this time because the tools have unlocked new things, new workflows, new skill sets that didn't exist before or weren't as economically viable before. Incremental improvement to the existing systems won't get us there. It's true, right? These companies are thinking, okay, The playing field has changed. This technology is changing the game. So we have to adapt to fit in more seamlessly with this technology to really harness the potential. Because if we don't, if the company doesn't, the individuals don't, they will be outcompeted by those that do. Okay, and I talk about this in the Arsenal program. Okay, so he says we need new systems to be able to get this 100x output. That means creating enough disruption to rebuild rather than to just iterate on what's already broken. This is one of those times where the technological shift forces companies to rethink how they're doing so many different things so they can actually ride this wave versus being swamped by the wave. The common narrative is that AI makes everyone more productive. It doesn't, which is true. It doesn't make everyone more productive. Many of the workflows of today, if left unchanged, creates bottlenecks in AI systems. It's true, okay? The roles will evolve, but waiting for that to happen naturally means falling behind. The 100x org is actually heavily dependent on people, infinitely more than today. This is only possible with 10x people that have embraced and adopted the new ways of working. So that's the opportunity right there. There's actually a shortage of people that have the skills that can fit into these new workflows. These companies need people with these skill sets, but they don't need the people without the skill sets. So you have to identify what types of people and skill sets with AI are going to be valuable. And if you position yourself now to become that, you're going to have success. In fact, I saw someone tweet me the other day saying they were promoted 3 times in the last like 6 to 12 months because they learned AI, okay? And they have like a 37 to 67% increase in their salary because of that. That's the power that can happen when you learn these things. And anyone can learn this in any industry, right? You can apply this stuff. That's the beautiful thing about it. But you have to take action there, okay? The next thing he talks about, the builders, agent managers, and frontliners, okay? The builders, these are 10x engineers. He says, I don't think most companies have internalized what's actually happening with AI and engineering. The common narrative is that AI makes all engineers more productive. That may be true in isolation, but at an organization level, that is the furthest thing from reality. Here's what we validated recently at ClickUp. The great engineers, the one who can orchestrate, architect, and review, are becoming 100x engineers. They're not writing code, they're directing agents that write code. The skill is judgment. Again, this is something I've talked about all the time. The most valuable skill right now is not if you can build something with AI, but it's what and how you build with AI. That judgment is so important because in a world where the cost to build just about anything has basically gone to zero, not quite, but like just for all intents and purposes, assume it's gone to zero and anyone can build anything. It's what you build and the speed in which you can build it that matters, because what that means is that you're pulling out the signal from the market, right? This is what judgment is, alignment of signal in the market versus signal in the products and signal in what you can create from the raw materials you have and aligning those things. Better judgment, better alignment between those things, which means better results, okay? So that judgment is very valuable, which for you, if you're listening, you have experience in a field, you have a level of judgment that you can unlock that someone who just knows AI doesn't have. So don't think that you're left out because you're older or you don't quite know the tech or whatnot, right? You really need to lean into that judgment because AI isn't there yet. And so if you're open to it, you can combine that judgment with AI to get an output that someone else can't replicate. So it's very, very, very important, okay? So let's go down a few more things. He talks about the new world is about enabling your 10x engineer to become a 100x engineer. So you got to be able to signal to your bosses, to the workforce, to the market that, hey, I am already a 10x person, right? This is who I am. This is my potential. Like, I'm looking to become a 100x person. How can I do that within your organization? He says the wrong strategy is to push every engineer to use infinite tokens. Companies doing this are celebrating 500% more pull requests, but customer outcomes don't match the volume of code being generated. Again, back to what I said, just because you can build something doesn't matter if it doesn't actually hit the mark, right? Strategic choice and allocation of resources, because like it or not, we are time and resource limited. Time and resources are scarce, okay? So you have to keep that in mind. These companies, they don't have infinite capital to waste on infinite tokens for forever. And so, yes, level 1 is just maximizing your AI output, but then you have to have targeted output. Because again, the companies and the people that have the more targeted output, they'll win. They'll grow faster. They'll have better customer experiences. They'll have better products than someone that doesn't. Okay. He goes on to say that more code is just another bottleneck to the best engineers and ultimately to your company's impact as well. Next thing he says, the builders, 10x project managers, project management and design roles are merging. Designers that have customer focus become more like product managers, and product managers that have intuition for user experiences become more like designers. The bottleneck of user research is gone. It takes us just one mention of an agent to kick off research and analyze results. That's one of the most powerful things that is available right now, is that you have access to insane research capabilities at your fingertips, okay? But everyone does. It's what questions do you ask and what insights do you pull out of that resource, and how effectively can you turn that into value-added products and services and get them to market in a way that is useful for whatever company, business, product you're working on, okay? So that's very, very important. And then he goes on and talks about the system managers, the frontliners, and then the final thing is I want to talk about rewarding 100x impact. In a world where companies are able to do so much more with less, where does that excess money go? This is very important. In our case, right, in ClickUp's case, much of the savings in this new operating model will flow directly back to those who enable it. That's what you want to hear. That's very, very important. That kind of, it should hopefully combat the AI death spiral of companies becoming more efficient with less people, therefore, and then wealth and stuff gets concentrated in fewer hands, then less people are there to buy products and services and so on and so forth, right? You don't want that to happen. So you want people to be rewarded equivalent or even in excess of what they're doing. That's very, very important. So he says, we must reward people that create productivity accordingly. This aligns on both sides. Plus, in a world where your best people create 100x impact, you can't afford to lose them. So true. So you need to become a person who creates that 100x impact. You should aim to retain these employees for decades. You don't want them going elsewhere and taking their 100x impact to your competitors or to another company. Very, very important. This is why they have these compensation bands. So that's really cool to see. The future, he says, nearly every company will make changes like these. I agree with him at varying degrees and paces. So it's inevitable this is going to happen. It's already happening across major organizations. And so just know that's going to happen to your company, right? And if you aren't a part of these conversations, you need to start working and position yourself so that you are, and so you're demonstrating that, hey, you know what's up and you get it. Okay? The ones that do it proactively will define what comes next. The future is not fewer people. It's different work, new roles, and better rewards for those who embrace it. We're already seeing entirely new roles emerge, like agent managers that didn't exist just a year ago. Okay, this company, ClickUp, is positioning to lead this shift for their company, but also they want to do this for their customers as well. So I really hope that this works out for them and it does better, and that these hypotheses he has hits. I think they're true. It just matters on execution, right? You can have this, you can have these theories, but all that matters at the end of the day is how well you execute this. And so for you, hearing this, what you need to take away is that you need to position yourself to be a person that is recognized as someone with the skills that can enhance an organization, okay? That is bringing value to the market, not just quantity of stuff, but quality of stuff. The judgment and stuff that you bring is very, very important, and you need to lean into that. And so if you aren't up to date on this, if you haven't started using AI, if you haven't committed to working through AI and making it a foundational component tool in your toolkit, you're falling behind. And there is a window of opportunity now, okay? I really think the next 3 to 6 months are really, really important to make moves, but we have 3, 6, 12, 18 months that you really need to go all in on this if you want to have an impact in the market, because the reality is there's an exact version of you somewhere that has made the choice to go all in on this, to work through AI, to become a 10x or 100x AI operator, and you're competing against them. And if you haven't made that shift, they're gonna walk circles around you. And when it comes down to someone making a decision, right, on who they're gonna hire, they're gonna pick the person that has that 100x capability and capacity, that has made those choices, over the person that hasn't. And so this is your opportunity to take action and start learning this stuff. And the best way to do that is go and join the arsenal and build your foundation, start setting up your AI brain, start working through these tools so that you are on the forefront of this technology as new updates and new things comes out. So that is it for this video. Subscribe and follow along for more. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.